All right, guys, it's taken way too long to get to this point. Let's make some Jeep stuff happen today. Okay, if anybody remembers my 1964 CJ5, the old mountain goat, had the original engine transmission in it. Pulled it out. Time to replace it. I have this engine, transmission transfer case, ready to go in. Chevy 4.3 liter V6. If you haven't been following that build, I'll put a link over there. You can click on that and you can follow the whole build. Cheap rebuild of a 4.3 V6 with an adapter, mystery adapter bell housing to an original T90 T18 transfer case combo. Let's go out here and check out the Jeep and kind of see what we got going on. The whole reason I'm taking the time to document this is I can't find anybody else who's documented how to put a Chevy V6 in one of these old CJ5s. And I don't know why they haven't done it, because it's such a good combo. That's such a good engine, just right for this old Jeep. Anyway, so that's why I'm doing this. So I didn't document pulling the engine. It's not that bad. You unhook stuff, you hook your engine hoist, pull the thing out. Now where I'm at is getting ready to put the thing in. And this is where there are no instructions. I took the time while I was here to replace that seal on my steering shaft because it was leaking all over. And it's a great time to fix some other stuff. I think I have a broken, when I pulled the engine out, I broke that little brake line fitting. So I got to replace that. But that's for later, not for right now. Definitely before I put the engine in. But here's what I got to do today. I want to get this whole thing kind of cleaned up and ready for the engine to go in. And in the cleanup process, I think I got to get rid of these old engine mounts. I've done some measuring. That engine mount, probably not a big deal. And honestly, I may not get rid of it because the way I'm going to get rid of it is with a torch. And I got all my brake lines and stuff there. But this one, definitely in the way. And I don't think the battery tray is going to be in the way when we're all said and done. But it'll be in the way when we're getting this stuff put together. So, first things first, I'm going to finish tearing this down. I got to unbolt a few things off my fender. And then I think there's 4 bolts along the side. That's all that's holding these front fenders on. I'm going to go ahead and rip those off and then break my torch out and do a little cleanup. Let's get the battery tray away from there, take care of that old motor mount, and then get my wire wheel and clean up where the new motor mount's going to go in. Maybe I'll even do a little cleanup on all this while I'm at it. All right, lots of different ways to get these little rivets out. Grind them, drill them. I'm going to use the torch and just knock them out that way, cut them off. Hammer to punch, knock them through. I might have to grind the one on the bottom there that's close to my rubber brake line because I don't want to melt that. But anyway, killing it today. Fired up the old hot rod to pull it out of the garage. Saw that the alternator's not working on it. Went to put my clamp together, broke it. So anyway, one of those days. I'm going to put a couple hours on this, get as much done as I can though. Here we go. All right, well, clearly it took the fenders off. Kudos to whoever designed a Jeep, made the fenders easy to remove like that. Also got my motor mounts pulled off. Like I said, just torched the rivets, popped them off. There's one brake line that is attached to the motor mount down there, so I had to cut that. Anyway, got them out, kind of moved some wiring stuff out of the way because I got my son busy on the pressure washer. He knocked out the fenders for me, and then I'm gonna have him do the firewall and the hood and everything, and maybe we'll put a little black paint on that stuff before we go to reinstalling everything. Oh yeah, my battery holder. We got it off too. Hopefully it goes back in the same spot there, but we'll see. The goal here is to get everything clean and prepped and ready, and only stab that engine once. Get it in there, mock up, do my motor mounts, and then weld them in place and leave it in there. All right, we're gonna get busy cleaning and then doing a little painting. I did kind of a halfway mask job on some of this stuff. Again, this Jeep is high on functionality and not so much looks, but I can't put it back together with it all looking that terrible. So we're gonna use the turbo can. One I had left over from my trailer project. I'll put a link up there if you guys wanna check that out, how I used the turbo can to paint my trailer. This stuff's pretty sweet. We're gonna spray some fenders, the firewall, and underneath the hood. So let's get after it. All right, it's hard to get nooks and crannies with this stuff, so we'll just leave it like that, and we'll get the little can of paint. We'll touch up the little nooks and crannies. That's good, bud. All right. The plan to put this engine in there is to use these universal type engine mounts that I got from Novak adapters, and they're pretty good. They're really good. Obviously, small block Chevy or 4.3 Chevy V6 style bolt pattern. This just bolts up to the regular mounting location on the engine, like so. Sticks straight out, like so. And then what happens is this guy mounts to it. And we got these big biscuits. There should be 4 of them. There's the other one. Big sandwich in there. And then it actually comes, this kit's really nice because it comes with the brackets here to bolt this. Use this and kind of use the brackets on the back to sandwich the frame in there and bolt it up that way if you wanted to. But I'm going to weld them in. I'm going to weld them in because this frame has been boxed, so that, anyway, it'd be a pain to bolt them up. But I'm just going to put them in there and weld them, and I'll show you here. Luke helped me out quite a bit today. We got all the pressure washing done and painting, and so it doesn't look professional, but it's no longer salmon colored. The other big thing we got done today here is we got our motor mounts trimmed off, all nice and cleaned up. Battery box out of the way, it'll hopefully go right back there. But we got the motor mounts off of both sides. The one on that side is going to be a little more challenging, but the one on this side should mount just about like that. And obviously it'll take a little fixing to get it set up in there, and then we're going to weld it in place. Anyway, the plan is to do this one time. Get it set in, tie in the transmission, cross member and everything, and then find where the motor mounts on the front need to go, and then just weld them in place. What do you think?
Good.
Good plan. All right. You'll have to come back next time to see how that goes, though. That's the plan, is next time roll this thing to the garage, take the fenders back off and the hood, and go to town and just get that engine sitting in this Jeep. We have got to make progress on it. All right. So Luke has the horn that came off of the old Jeep, and we've never had it work before. And I don't know if it's the horn that's bad or the button that's bad. So Luke is going to do a little testing. How should we hook it up here?
So I think this is the ground. So.
Okay, yep, the ground, because it goes to the body of it. So you'll go to negative with that. And then you just touch positive.
It works.
It works. So what's wrong with the Jeep then?
The button.
Must be the button, or maybe some wiring. We'll figure that out when it goes back together. All right, we're back at it. This time we rolled the Jeep into the garage, because today's the day we're going to swing that engine, transmission, transfer case in there. Hopefully one time. Follow along. Let's see how this goes. All right, this is, I don't know what part of a series of putting a Chevy V6, 4.3 liter V6 into a Jeep. But there will be a link up in the corner there you can click to see some of the other videos. Last time we left off with just spraying some black paint on things, cleaning the motor mounts off the frame, and just kind of getting this thing ready to slide the new one in. Now my goal here, obviously if you hear my voice, I don't feel like 100%, but I'm gonna do my best. And I got a helper. We're going to hook this thing up, swing it into place, and try to get it set in there, and probably bust out the cross member and stuff for the transmission, and try to locate it all in the rear and see how our clearance is. If everything looks like it's gonna clear, then we'll grab those motor mounts that I got from Novak Adapters, and we'll go ahead and get these things set up and put them on there and try to get them mounted in that frame. Let's see if we can weld them up. So on the tripod you go, and let's watch this circus that's about to happen. got it swung underneath the Jeep. The problem is, you can see that the top of my PTO there needs to line up with that hole. So we're about 3 inches shy, and the engine hoist is hitting the bumper up there. So we're gonna have to kind of reassess and come up with a new way of getting this to swing back just a few more inches. And we're getting pretty close. We're actually probably close enough we can bolt this. Let's do that. We should just bolt that cross member all on. And then once we get the back to, yeah, let's do that. Let's get the cross member to bolt up, and then we'll go from there. Okay, bud?
All right.
All right. All right. We are in the throes of getting this to sit. We hooked up the cross member on the transmission because I think that's going to help us locate everything down here. But I got to get that to swing into place. Well, like I mentioned earlier, we bottomed out our engine hoist, so I'm gonna have to come up and re-grab it, but I got to find a way to hang it. Anyway, here, that's not what I wanted to get into. This is what I was concerned about on this thing, is my steering joint and this side of the block. And so far, it's looking like it's gonna clear pretty good. I might have a little conflict there with my master cylinder and the bell housing, but that bell housing can be trimmed a little bit if we have to, grind it down if we have to make it fit. But it's got a little ways to go, a little bit of settling, a little fitting. I think my distributor's gonna fit. I don't know, I'm excited to get the cross member hooked up because I'm trying to do this without having to change my drive lines and all that, just see if it'll kind of bolt in there. So, all right, we're gonna go back to fiddling with it and see if we can get the cross member in and get that thing located. We'll bring it back. All right, my son's keeping me honest, telling me not to forget about videoing. Here's the status update. We have our transmission cross member bolted in on both sides, and or at least close to sucked down tight, but all the bolts are in. But here's our problem we're looking at right now, and that's all this clearance right here. I don't know if you can see down in there, but my bell housing is up against my brake booster, and that's my brake pedal right there that scrapes the edge of the engine when you hit the brake pedal. So what we determined is we are just going to re-drill some cross member holes. I'll try to get under here and show you what I'm talking about. Right here where our cross member bolts up, we're looking at, I guess I could use this hole here and slot. I might just do that and go with one bolt for now. Drill it and then scoot the whole thing that way, about a 1/2 inch towards the passenger side. Do that on both sides and scoot it over, and that could solve my clearance problems up there and everything, and not change too much of my geometry for my drive lines or anything like that. So I think we're gonna do that. We're gonna drill some holes and we'll bring it back. Ow, hot. You ready to move it over another 3/8 of an inch?
Sure.
All right, I need my hammer, and we'll try to bang it over there a little bit. Watch out. Get out from under there for me, would you? Getting there. I might need more hammer. I don't know. Oh man. All right. I don't know if it looks like we've been laying underneath that Jeep, but we finally figured it out. Check it out. Okay. So what we ended up doing was we ended up scooting the whole transfer case mount over. Well, by that much, you can see. By that much, that's what would be mounted up flush to the frame there on both sides. But we scooted it out. It's actually about 1 inch because, don't quote me, but I think these Jeep engines, they sit stock like 1 inch and or so towards the driver's side. But to make this one all line up, it's exactly centered now. I mean, you could see, well, you can kind of tell, but it's all centered up in the frame. And centered gives us the space we need right here, because this was our problem right here. That clearance on the brake pedal to the engine, and that was just all way too tight. So moving that cross member over was exactly the trick we needed to do. I'll show you how much we had to move it down here and see how I did it. That is, there we go. Don't pay attention to that. That's my broken clutch linkage. That's how much we moved it. So this hole lined up with that hole before. Let me see the tape measure, bud. So it appears as though moving this cross member, there we go. It appears as though moving that cross member over 1 1/4 inches. I'm left-handed, shaky, filming it here, but no, that's about 1 inch. 1 inch, moving this transfer case and everything, cross member over 1 inch towards the passenger side. Got us all lined up. I hope everything else works, my my drive shafts and everything. but it sure gives us the clearance we need and helps us stay centered up in the front of the vehicle because we were a little bit crooked before. Now I think it's centered up. So I'm just gonna get my motor mounts out, try to mock those up, and we'll see if we can tie it in. Here's the other issue. Now I know we're gonna face this now, is since we moved that an inch over, all my shifter and everything's gonna be 1 inch off. Like you can tell right here, my PTO for my winch is 1 inch off. So I'm gonna have to come down here and do a little cutting to get that out. Everything's gonna be scooted over. That's fine, we can make those adjustments, but I'll take it so that I have the clearance I need right there between my brake pedal and my block and everything. All right, I think that's the trick. Let's keep pressing, see if we run into any more roadblocks. Alrighty, we have been hard at it. There are some variables here that I didn't consider, but that's what those motor mounts look like. And my plan is just to weld these bottom ones in. I might have to trim some stuff a little bit so they'll sit nice and flush, but they're gonna get welded in on both sides, just like that. Now, a couple things to consider here. One, I did grab my distributor and shove it down in the hole to make sure it fits. It fits, it's tight, but that keeps me, I don't want to get too cranked up about having a bunch of angle like that on the engine. So we're trying hard to make the angle right on it. Also, the other thing here is the problem is I couldn't get it level. Actually, I did get it level. I was real happy with how level it was, but then I realized that this silly Jeep doesn't sit level. It never has. So I've been putting my angle finder on here, trying to get whatever angle the Jeep is sitting at, and then I set that up on the intake there, and I get the engine to match it. And when I do that, it isn't the same between my motor mounts from frame rail to frame rail. And I don't know why, and it's been driving us nuts. I think maybe this frame is just not symmetrical. It dips down a little more on one side. That could be it. All right, so that's that. We are gonna square this up one more time, make sure it's all happy. It's the transmission side for side, centered between the frame rails. The front of it, the harmonic balancer bolt right there, is centered between the frame rails as well. And so once I'm happy with my level and my up and down here, we're just gonna start, we're gonna tack weld those mounts in, and then we're gonna call it a night. Okay, celebration time. The engine hoist is away from the Jeep, and it's in there. I did the best eyeballing and measuring that I could. I'm happy with it. I like where it sits. It sits actually a little too far back for me, but I didn't want to move everything around and have to change my drive lines and all that. So I'm actually pretty happy with this. We're gonna go with it. I just have these tack welded in place on there. I might do some trimming since I don't need that, but actually I kind of like that it hangs over there, because if this thing were to break, then it's actually just gonna rest on the frame there. So I might just leave that. But that's it, it's tacked in. All right, we got the engine tacked in there. Now all that's left to do is everything. Come back next time, follow along, see how we finish this thing up. That's it for this episode. See ya.